You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Sarah Golseth.
I'm Andy Bates.
Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for your support of The Coffee Hour. You can find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live Uncommon.
So we're continuing in our series on hobbies. These have been super fun to just listen to people's stories and dig into why they enjoy doing all of these fun things. This has been such a nice diversion from the usual news lately. And today we get to talk about crocheting, which may be something that people have tried. And I have done several scarves because it's like the easiest thing you could do with crocheting. But we have an expert on with us to talk more about this. Kristi Stell, a mom of 4 and an avid crocheter. Thanks so much for joining us on the Coffee Hour today.
Thanks for having me.
So how did your interest in crocheting begin?
You know, it wasn't something that I ever went after myself. I went to college at Concordia University in Nebraska, and one of my friends and I got an apartment together, and one morning she was crocheting, and I just thought, wow, you know, that looks kind of fun. And she said, well, I'll teach you how to do it. I love to teach people how to crochet. And so she started teaching me, and that's, you know, just something that we would sit and do together. We worked evenings together at a restaurant, and so we would work in the mornings and crochet with each other and just hang out. And I stopped for a little while, but when I started having kids, then it became a lot more fun because, you know, crocheting little tiny things is always fun, and babies look cute and everything. So, so that's really how I got started. Just 2 girlfriends sitting around together and decided I wanted to try it.
So it starts with a roommate.
It starts with a roommate.
To this dangerous behavior that followed me.
Yeah.
Why do you love crocheting? It sounds like it's really become a part of your life on a regular basis. Why do you love crocheting?
It really has become a part of my life on a mostly daily basis. You know, one of the main reasons I like it is because I do enjoy getting together with friends and doing it. I have a couple friends. One of them comes to visit me every week or every summer from Nebraska, and she and her family spend a week here, and we spend most of our time sitting on the couch or out around the campfire crocheting together. And it's just, you know, it's a really fun hobby to do together. We share patterns and that kind of thing. But I think the other thing that is really key for me is that I have a son with it's a pretty severe form of epilepsy, and crocheting is really, really relaxing to me. And so, especially on the days that he's having quite a few seizures or just other issues that come along with his epilepsy, there's a lot of days that I need to just sit with him and sit and comfort him. And it can be really stressful, but it can also be a little bit trying to just sit all day. And this kind of gives me something to keep my hands busy, keep my mind occupied. And so it's definitely relaxing to me to sit and do it and have something to show for it at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely, it can be a nice thing to just keep your hands busy and to make to make something then. And you get to use yarn and colors and maybe follow a pattern or maybe not. One thing that I don't know, when I was starting or when you talk about crocheting to people, a lot of times they ask whether it's knitting or crocheting and whether that's the same thing, but those aren't the same thing, right?
No, with crocheting, you just use one, a lot of people call them sticks, but one crochet hook with the little hook on the end. And with knitting, it's the two needles, very large needles sometimes with the the stoppers on the ends. I've attempted a little bit of knitting, but I think I tried a scarf and I had to tear it out like 4 or 5 times and then I gave up. So
Yep.
it was just, I know I can work with one stick. I can't work with 2.
I think that's a common story among a lot of people that they are actually 2 very different skill sets. A lot of my knitter friends are not good at crocheting, and a lot of my crocheting friends are not good at knitting. It's a different thing.
It is, and it's kind of surprising how once you've picked your side, you just don't necessarily always want to go over to the other side. You've picked the one that works for you, and you're satisfied with that.
So tell us a little bit more about actually the art of crocheting, the intricacies, how you actually use your crochet hooks and the yarn to make something.
Well, essentially, I guess crochet is, I mean, they describe it as it's just tying knots, and you're basically just, coming up with different ways to tie knots. And if you tie enough of them, you end up with a product at the end. I've taught my 2 older daughters how to crochet when they were 8 and 9. I've taught some of my younger cousins. I've attempted to teach one of my friends, and she just said, "Oh, this is too stressful. I can't do it." And, she teased me because she said, "You said this would be relaxing." And I said, "Well, it will be once you get the hang of it." But, when I'm looking to learn and after my friend had taught me and I had taken some time off from it and didn't do it for a few years, and then I wanted to figure out how to make stuff for my oldest daughter, I got on YouTube, and that is really, you can find so many tutorials for beginners and for more advanced stitches. And they're really, the ones who are on there to teach beginners how to crochet, they go nice and slow and they show their steps over and over again and explain what they're doing. And that's really, really nice. Even, I still get on and learn new stitches all the time on YouTube.
So if it's just about making knots, like I can do that. I can make a knot out of anything. But
You can.
I gather it's probably a little more eloquent than just making knots, because I've got all kinds of knots in it. So you mentioned using YouTube to help you learn new skills.
Yes.
Are there other ways that you've gone about learning new skills? Either books or friends or other people that have taught you new skills?
Yes, I do, get books from the library sometimes, or people will give me crochet books as gifts. And then I find a lot of patterns on Pinterest, and I'll print those off, and they kind of look scary at first because everything is written in code. So they talk about, chain 5 and then do, 5 SC, which is single crochet across your piece, and then chain 2, and it just kind of looks like Greek or Hebrew, I would guess, for some of our STEM students. And so watching the YouTube videos or having a book that shows you the step-by-step instructions on how to make each stitch really helps you translate those fairly easily once you get the hang of it. There's a lot of, wrap the yarn around the hook and you put it through one of your stitches and grab more yarn and pull it through, and it's just different combinations of how many times you do that and how many times you wrap your yarn around your hook.
I think I had to learn a new stitch. It was like a loop thingamabobber. I don't even remember what it was. I don't know how many times I watched that YouTube video, and I think it finally stuck. But yeah, YouTube is quite a good resource, and the the directions in another language is very true. It looks like gibberish the first time you read it, and it's good to have a friend or a book to explain that.
Yeah, it is.
What do you find is maybe the easiest way to get started if someone wants to dive in and doesn't really know where to start?
I think going to your local craft store, my favorite yarns come from Hobby Lobby, but Walmart has yarn too, and they have the crochet hooks there, and they have little beginner books as well that you can pick up. And I feel like the best way for people to start is to just go grab your stuff and go sit down and just decide you're going to do it. And it might take you a few days, or it might take you a few weeks. I think that a lot of people make the mistake of maybe trying to get to start with too intricate of a pattern. And start simple, start with a washcloth, don't start with a big blanket, because you'll be tired of it and feel like you've messed everything up right off the bat. But I think the best way to start is to get all of the yarn skeins have a yarn size written on them and a recommended hook size. And like Hobby Lobby's I Love This Yarn, it's one of my go-to yarns, and that's the actual name of the label on the yarn, is called I Love This Yarn.
Clever.
Yeah, it is. So I get one of those, and I get like an I or a J sized hook. And I think those are good sizes to start learning with, because if you start with a hook that's too small, you're not going to be able to see your stitches very well. You're not going to know where to insert your hook. You're not going to be able to tell what you've already done. So I think starting with a bigger sized hook is really a smart move for beginners to make. It's easier to handle. Your hands cramp less, because you do get sore hands when you're learning. And you can see your work a lot easier to know what you've done and where you need to go next.
So hook sizes go by letters. Yarn sizes go by numbers?
Hook sizes have a letter on them and they have a number on them. And the labels will say either hook size J or number and I don't even know what J is, because I always just go by the letters. And one of my friends always goes by the numbers, but it will say like 5.00 mm on it, and that's the number. But the label will say the letter and the number of what size hook you would work best with that size yarn.
I see. So it's like metric versus Got it. Very good. Well, I'm intrigued. I've never crocheted before, but my grandmother and other relatives have crocheted before. So now I'm intrigued by this and want to learn more. We're going to do that when we come back in the next segment. We're going to learn more from Kristi about her hobby of crocheting in this fun series. I'm learning so much. Are you, Sarah?
I am.
You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
You're a miracle. You know that, right? A living, breathing, one-of-a-kind miracle. You were created to stand apart, to share your gifts in the service of others, to make an uncommon impact in a common world. And at Concordia University, it's our mission to help you do that, to live uncommon. To learn more about Concordia, go to cuw.edu.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Sarah Golseth.
I'm Andy Bates.
We're talking with Kristi Stell about crocheting in our hobby series. Maybe this is inspiring you to try a new hobby, or if you have an unfinished crocheting project like I do sitting on my dresser, maybe it'll inspire you to pick it back up and finish it while we have maybe a little extra time during this season of coronavirus and staying at home. So before we went to the break, we were talking about some of the easiest ways to get started. So Kristi, now I'm curious if you have more tips for newbies?
Well, I would say that, again, I think my biggest tip, and this was where I made my newbie mistake, was I didn't start with something small. I decided I was going to make a blanket, and that just, my hands got sore, and it was taking me forever and ever and ever. And I didn't think, I thought this is something I'm never going to enjoy doing because it's never ending and it looks ridiculous. And it was, my edges were all wavy and my tension was all off. And so some areas the blanket was really loose, and some areas it was really tightly stitched. So I think that, starting with something small, where you just do the same repetitive stitch over and over again is a good place to start. A washcloth is, that's still my go-to if I'm tired of working on a big project and I'm like, oh, I just need to finish something. I don't even care what it is. I just need to finish something. I'll just start and make a washcloth. And it takes, it takes me an hour or so to make a washcloth right now because, I've been doing it for so long, but a washcloth is a great place to start. Get some cotton yarn from one of the craft stores or Walmart. I mentioned before that my favorite acrylic yarn, which is very durable and will hold up for anything, is I Love This Yarn from Hobby Lobby. And my favorite cotton is called I Love This Cotton, and it's also at Hobby Lobby. But it's super soft, and it will make a great little washcloth. You can get 2 or 3 washcloths out of one skein of I Love This Cotton. There are some other cottons out there that are available. Walmart has some that are actually a little bit thicker than the cotton at Hobby Lobby, but it's a little bit rougher textured, and so it can be a little bit more finicky to use. And so for a newbie, it might make your hands hurt a little bit more if you try some of those thicker cottons. But a washcloth is a really good place to start. A scarf, because it is the same, the same stitch over and over again. Mm-hmm. You can get halfway done with it and be like, I think I've got this figured out. It's just going to be a kid's scarf. I'm ready to move on to something else. And, it doesn't have to be that long. Or, this will look cute on my dog. And then that's, you just do it like that. And then, but once you figure out, oh, I've got this stitch down, I want to try a different stitch, you kind of start to realize that I'm just doing the same motions over and over again, no matter what size the stitch is. And you get more confident as you go. And then, it's not quite so intimidating to take on a bigger project. And the nice thing about crochet, and this is where my biggest issue with knitting was, when I was trying to knit, if I made a mistake, I couldn't figure out how to correct it. I couldn't figure out how to get that yarn back on those needles. And I just ended up with a big, what looked like a pantyhose run down the center of what I was trying to make. Mm-hmm. But with crochet, you can start ripping out what you've done. It's a cute little thing that we call frogging, because as you pull the yarn out, your hand makes a hopping motion, like a frog when it jumps. So as you're ripping out your stitches, as you're frogging, those loops pop up, and you always have a loop right there to go into, put your crochet hook back into that loop that's standing up on your piece of work, and you can just keep on going. If you missed a stitch, you just frog back to that area and you just keep on going. If you got too many stitches, you just frog them out, and then you can keep right back, keep going again. So to me, it was a lot easier to correct mistakes with crochet than with knitting. And, when you think about a cute frog pulling out your yarn by jumping away, by grabbing it and jumping, and then, it's not so miserable that you have to tear out all this work you just did.
All right. So what has been your most memorable mistake?
Oh, well, one of my friends asked me to make a grafgan for her grandson. And a grafgan is where you take your stitches and you change your yarns all the time to make an actual picture in your yarn.
Whoa.
Or in your blanket. And well, in this case, it was a blanket. And so my friend asked me if I would make her grandson a blanket that had 2 of the minions on it, like the little yellow guys, because her grandson loved these things. And I thought, oh yeah, sure. When I got all my yarn and I got my chocolate and put on a good movie and I printed out my graph that I had created, and I had no idea how long it was going to take me to do this thing. I thought, oh, they're mostly yellow. Oh, the background's all one color. It's not going to take me that long. It took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to. And I had posted it at one time. I had done an Etsy shop with crochet, and I had posted it on there thinking, oh, maybe somebody will be interested in this. And I priced it really high because I didn't necessarily want anybody to want it, but if they were going to pay me enough for it, I would do it. And like a month to 6 weeks before Christmas, 3 people ordered it. And so I ended up until midnight, many, many nights, getting these 3 blankets finished and sent out to be Christmas gifts for somebody. And then I took the listing down because I was done with minions. But that was probably my biggest mistake. I don't know if it's a crochet mistake or just a business mistake. But I did get pretty good at making those little minions there for a while.
How have you been able to use this hobby of yours to serve others? You've talked about making things for other people. How have you been able to use this in service to others?
Well, one of my favorite things to make is baptism gowns. And I am lucky enough to have, on my mom's side, I have 30 first cousins.
Wow.
And we are all having kids right now. And so I've made some baby blankets, baptism blankets for my cousins' babies and stuff. I do crochet scarves and hats and stuffed animals and donate them to police departments for them to give to somebody that's having a hard time, or when cops encounter kids, it's usually in a pretty scary situation. So I have given them little crocheted stuffed animals to give to these kids just to help them have a little friend during that stressful time. I mentioned before that my son has epilepsy, and we are about to in 3 weeks, we are getting a service dog for him. And so I've been crocheting washcloths to donate to the service dog company. But I think the most, the thing that I've been doing that has produced the most results is 3 years ago, a friend of mine at church said, hey, we are thinking about getting together a crochet group at church, and we want to make prayer shawls for people. Would you be interested? And I said, oh yeah, sure. Let me know when it's going to start and I'll do that. So our group meets once a month. Well, we have a morning group and an afternoon group, and some people manage to make it to both, but we meet on the second Thursday of every month, either in the morning or the evening. We have about 15 women that come regularly or have come off and on. And we started in 2017, and to date, we met last night, we have given out 596 prayer shawls to people.
Wow.
And we give these, we have a whole stash of them in our pastor's office. And they take them out when they go on homebound calls or visiting people in the hospital. Anytime there's a death in our congregation, we make sure that the family members get a few shawls. And, we've had periods of time where we have entirely too many. And so we're sitting there and we're trying to think of, well, where can we donate these to? Who needs one right now? So it's probably, it was before Corona. So last fall, probably, we took a stack of 15 or 16 to our dialysis center in town, because they always keep those places really cold. And they handed them out there to all of the patients who get dialysis there. We have a little pro-life counseling center in town, and we've taken baby blankets and small prayer shawls over there for the moms and the babies. And just, anytime we hear of anybody in our area that, even if they're not in our congregation, there's a car wreck and somebody is killed, we will take a prayer shawl or two over to the funeral home and, ask them, please give this to the family. And our prayer shawls all have a little note in them just saying that, we have, that the members of our church and our Emmanuel Lutheran Church prayer shawl group, we're thinking about them and had prayed for the comfort of whoever would receive the prayer shawl. And we've gotten so many thank you cards, and we've seen pictures of people who, have cancer and that kind of stuff. And their family members will post pictures on Facebook, just letting other people know how they're doing. And we'll see our prayer shawls, wrapped around their shoulders or hanging on the back of their chair or something. So we know that it's definitely impacting our community.
What a great way. What a great way to be able to use something that you enjoy doing to share God's love with people and to encourage them in the Word. We are all out of time. Kristi, thanks so much for joining us to talk about your hobby of crocheting.
You're welcome. I had fun doing it.
You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Sarah Gulseth.
I'm Andy Bates.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support The Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@kfuo.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.